This basically confirms it for the Montreal Canadiens, as during the intermission of the Habs game today, Pierre Lebrun officially came out and said Montreal and Jake Evans are far apart on contract negotiations, and multiple reports indicate that his days as a Montreal Canadien are likely over. We have to dive into that. Plus, another great game played by Montreal, but they get another loss, which just once again pushes them towards being big-time sellers at this deadline, as headlined by Arber Basu also at the intermission. There's a lot of stuff we got to get into coming up on this episode of Habs Digest, from trades, rumors, reports, and the Habs playing good games. We got to dive into all of it, and we'll start, Jesse, with the game, because, look, feel free to pause and take a look at the box score as always. There's a lot of stuff we can say about this game, and we'll be getting into Jake Evans in just a bit, so stick around for that, or jump to the timestamp. That's up to you, but I recommend you stick around, because this is going to be pretty interesting. Look, today was one of those games, Jesse, where the Habs seemed to play an amazing game. The deserved to win meter, really good. 68% versus 32% for Tampa, just like the other day in New Jersey, or versus New Jersey. 82% yesterday. Habs can't win again. Look, they played great. The expected goals for were all across the board for Montreal. How do you feel about this game? Because I feel like they played good. They looked good to me. But once again, a couple of mistakes burned them, and they just didn't have the scoring power to get back into this one.
So many similarities to the game yesterday from the New Jersey Devils, where they're outplaying, they're getting those opportunities kind of in the first, but they just kind of make one mistake kind of like ahead, against them, and it's going the other way. They're getting that offensive zone time early, but, just kind of one giveaway the other way, and the other team is making us pay. Again, this is an example of Tampa Bay showing their experience of not, being very opportunistic when they have, their opportunities there, that they're striking on them. And the Habs, where they are having their opportunities, but they're not able to make the most of them. So, of course, experience a big part. Even the last bit, we're saying, what's kind of happening right now from where we're winning to kind of right now? There's a couple different factors, but for sure, I think, the maturity is a huge sign of all of this. There's some things that, you just got to go through it. You got to kind of earn your stripes in the NHL, and there's nothing like just that maturity of playing those games and really know how to close it out. Josh, but again, a similarity to yesterday's game, goaltending was the difference. Yesterday, there was the 4 goals and the 19 shots. Again, if we, the goaltending was a little bit better, we're getting this W. The reason why we had that streak of about a month of such amazing hockey was, Dach, he was looking near unbeatable there. And he wasn't super bad tonight, but even just kind of one goal, and the way that the league is so close where it's like, okay, he should kind of be up in position, and he's not. That's kind of the difference for us here tonight. Vasi was just unreal. And even though, we're putting up 35 shots, 80 plus shot attempts, folks, we're still just not able to get that W right now. You have to feel like things will balance out, and generally, statistically speaking, which of course we're so big on here at Habs Digest, it goes to show that often things will kind of go to that curve there. They will balance out, but the Habs are still kind of in the middle, and they need to do their own work to get out of it right now.
Yeah, they'll get there. Here's the thing. When we were on that winning streak, we were winning games convincingly. It wasn't luck that was causing those games to be won. And again, you look at the advanced stats and it backed it up. And right now we're losing big, but the advanced stats still don't look bad. And by the eye test, yes, there are moments that look bad, but overall, why am I blurry? There we go. Come on, focus on me. It still looks fine, right? And we watch even the goals that they scored, right? Brendan Gallagher turning into, I don't know what's gotten into him, but today he had a couple of absolute snipes, right? Even Christian Dvorak getting in there, raising his trade value, 63% on the dot, while also scoring a goal. I believe that was assisted by Slav. We'll have to look at that again. And Galley sniping another one. Even when we get the secondary scoring, it's not always possible to go out there and, Slav did get an assist on that, to go out there and win these games, right? So, I don't know. Watching this team play is exciting, but it's also frustrating at the same time. But one thing I wanted to get into, so shout out to Gallagher, shout out to Dvorak. Oh, yeah, we didn't give our Player of the Game award to anyone yesterday. Today is Galley, I guess, right? It got to be the Mitchell Stevens. Mitchell Stevens today got waived. I'm sorry, I'm just bringing this in. Mitchell Stevens got waived today by the Seattle Kraken. Look, if you trade Evans and you trade Dvorak and you don't have a center down in Laval, I know someone who might just be free. Look, not gonna get into that too much. Got to reset some stuff here. But Jesse, one quick thing before we get into the Evans talk. Wanted to talk about the lines. We saw some very interesting lines today, and I know coming out of the Four Nations break, we're probably going to see some other things as well. We saw Jake Evans spending a lot of time on the top line. We also saw Kirby Dach back on the top line. We saw Slav have some success next to Dvorak and Gallagher. He played a decent game there with them, picked up an assist on Dvorak's goal. Even the D pairings were kind of all over the place. We saw Hudson playing at times with Struble, sometimes with Carrier. Everything was out like crazy. Line A played the second fewest minutes or third fewest minutes on the team, I think. Owen Beck looked good. What are you expecting coming out of this Four Nations break in terms of the lines? Do you think we could maybe even see someone, if Evans is not moved, or maybe even a guy like Kirby Dach on the top line replacing Slav? Because tonight that top line looked sparked when they switched it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Would be interesting to know. I feel like with Kirby Dach, like it's just going to be a matter of time before he gets to the wing. I think probably the sooner than later you want to do that. Newhook can probably handle those 2C responsibilities in the meantime there. So that will be really interesting kind of note going forward. Obviously, we're having our lines kind of in a blender, but I think really finding that stability. Again, there's still some structural things where we see D-men such as Xhekaj today, like getting caught up. I get where they're trying to be aggressive. They're down a couple goals, but they're getting caught up ahead of the puck in their own defensive zone, right? So just some mistakes that we really can't be making right now kind of for this team that are really kind of just making all the differences right now.
Yeah, it's a little nuts right now. Those small mistakes, like you said, we don't quite have that skill to make up for those small mistakes where we get burned badly. So also, if Josh Anderson could score on a breakaway, I swear we'd have like 3 or 4 more wins this season. Anyway, now I'm gonna move on from that because this game was just another one. That's all right. We're at the Four Nations break. We'll take a 2-week reset. We'll be back, but we got to talk about Jake Evans. Now, there's a lot of stuff right now coming out, Jesse. This is the exciting part of the video. This is the thing we all wanted to talk about. The big thing was the intermission today, and Arpen Basu during Arpen's Notebook segment was saying some things as well, how it's looking more and more like Montreal will go towards being sellers. And look, we're not going to be all-out sellers. That's kind of been the indication. A recent article also came out saying we'll be hybrid sellers, something like, we're cautious on selling our players, but we want to make moves for the long term. So while Arpen was saying that, we think we're going to be sellers, Pierre Lebrun came in and he said something very interesting. And he also tweeted it out, and I'll show you what he said. So we go over to what he said here. Feel free to pause and read. I'll have it up on the screen for a while, though. He said, my understanding is that Jake Evans and the Canadiens have exchanged numbers on what an extension might look like, and they're not close. Obviously, things can change with one phone call, but as of now, that makes it more likely Evans gets dealt before the March 7th trade deadline. Calls from teams asking about Evans have increased lately with the Habs slide in the standings. And there is no surprise right there that Jake Evans calls have increased. With the Habs going down, teams naturally are feeling like, okay, they're probably more likely to sell. But Jesse, it's not just this. We'll bring back Evans stats, but even Marc-Olivier Baudouin and a lot of other insiders tweeting out like, multiple teams are interested in him. The demands for the new salary, the new contract are very high. But it seems like, according to LeBron and according to people, the Habs are not going to settle for anything less than a second rounder. I think he could get more. Do you think Jake Evans' days as a Hab are over? I want him to stay forever. I love Jake Evans. He's one of my favorite players. But if they're truly far apart, this is really reminiscent of the Arturi Lehkonen and Sean Monahan trades that were made in the last couple of years, Jesse. And look, I don't want to say anything certain, but things are certainly following a pattern at this point in regards to Jake Evans being moved.
And my stance on this has been, even with, insiders such as Friedman even coming out and saying how they're close to making a deal, that I feel like it would be hard to make a deal happen. I mean, at 28 years of age, there's the term, but then there's also the cap hit. The cap hit going up as well is another factor. Like, this does not help the Montreal Canadiens in terms of negotiations for a bottom 6 player, which they want to get on a pretty friendly type of deal. You figure, like, in terms of deal, he definitely wants like 4 years plus, because anything like minus that is 3 years. You think at 31 that he's going to be wanting to look for a fresh contract, being a bottom 6 guy in the NHL? Like, that's not a good spot. So there's the term where he's going to want the 4 or 5 years, we know. And then for sure the cap hit as well, that really comes into that. So, for me, just the numbers, just from that alone, right, is even though he's such a great fit, kind of his needs versus what the Montreal Canadiens' needs are right now are just really not easy. So for me, I've obviously kind of seen the writing on the wall there a little bit, but it'll be interesting to see if they can still kind of figure something out. It would be in the best interest, I think, of the Montreal Canadiens. But I mean, Kent knows his price, and I think he's going to have to stick to that.
I think so too. And I don't think Montreal is going to be making a kind of move where they have to settle, right? That's not something Kent Hughes is going to do, and he knows the value of Jake Evans. Even reports saying that Armia, one Western Conference executive in a recent article, and we'll probably talk about this in a future video, said that even Armia's value is higher than we think. And we've heard even Arpen Basu and other people suggest, what if you sell him as a package deal? I mean, I don't know how easy that'll be for other teams, but combined, they're about $5 million together for one of the best penalty-killing duos in the league. Like, there's moves Montreal can make, and as we head into this Four Nations break, there is no roster freeze. I don't know. Like, I really like Jake Evans, but I think you're bang on with the fact that the timeline and the amount of years, especially, that he'll want don't necessarily line up for Montreal. And I don't necessarily see an extension coming, but also, Jesse, there's other guys on this team too. We're hearing talks about David Savard. We're hearing talks even about Christian Dvorak, who upped his value today. How long do you think it'll take before Montreal makes a move here? We've even heard that, like, while Kent Hughes hasn't officially made an offer on Dobson, you got to think he's sniffing around. To me, I'm predicting this right now. I think within a week, we're going to see one of these UFAs be moved, and I think that's going to start a waterfall of moves to come.
I like that. And I think you said it right on the head there. It's that, like, there's going to be these smaller moves that need to be done if Kent Hughes wants to do these bigger moves. And to be honest, I like that philosophy from management of wanting to get an early start on the summer. Like, when's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. When's the second best time? Yesterday or today? So really getting on that plan and not really waiting. I think if they have big plans, they want to do things. Again, we've been saying on the pod, like, time is of the essence. We're getting to the shape of the type of team, but for sure, they need some help. That's part of the reason of the loss tonight too, is we have a little bit of a younger team. Kent Hughes hasn't done everything that he possibly can to make this the best roster. Why? Because he's balancing that longer term vision. And it's not just for just winning right now. There's some people that could be on this team that aren't, because we want to let those guys develop and obviously pick our spots wisely there. So I think it's all really going to come to fruition. There's going to be those kind of smaller moves to make way for some bigger ones as well. And to be honest, I'm really excited as we kind of shift into a little bit more of that competitive window.
Yeah, and as we're hearing too, like, even at that same intermission, they're like, hey, we moved David Savard. No trouble. I even heard at the intermission, they were even mentioning maybe a guy, maybe it was intermission or somewhere else I saw. People are mentioning even Reinbacher coming in, suiting up for a few games at the end of the year if Savard gets moved. So there's a lot of things that could happen. Owen Beck's looking ready to play center at this point. There's a lot of stuff we got to discuss, but let us know your thoughts down below. There's going to be a lot of big things coming on this whole trade scenario. But look, that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like. That's all I'm going to ask, actually. Just leave a like on the video. Hey, you made it this far. I think we've earned it at this point. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.